I'm back out at Red Rock today, and I was going to do some testing with my 10.3 there. I've got some new BF Goodrich TA crawler tires, and as I was driving out to the spot, I noticed that my drive shaft is disconnected. So this one is only rear wheel drive at the moment, so it's not going to work out. But this is why I always bring two crawlers when I come out to Red Rock. It's about a 40-minute drive, and it's not worth it when you come out with one and end up not getting to do anything. Well, I'm already heading back. Found out a few things I needed to know. I don't have enough weight on the front of the Capra, and the rear servo needs to be a good one. So I'm probably going to spend some money on that rear servo. Also, it is just so hot here. The heat came early. I just abandoned this trip before I ever got to the wall. I'm sure it's partially uncovered now, but I don't know how much. But anyway, we're calling this one a day. It's just too hot here. Well, as I was getting ready to leave, I noticed the center part of my drive shaft was on the ground right there. So I guess that was a lucky find, but I had to go home and put that back together. Earlier today you saw that I could not drive this truck because the drive shaft that goes from here back to here separated at the middle point. This is a similarly constructed drive shaft, and it's a three-piece one. It's a trackless one, but it's the same basically as the axial ones in their construction. We've got the end yokes on both sides, the drive shaft tube, and it has a slip bearing that goes in the middle here. And then when the truck articulates and the suspension goes up and down, it allows for that the drive shaft to move, because if it was a solid piece it would bind the system so it wouldn't be able to articulate. Anyway, what had happened is it was kind of a perfect storm for it to come apart. It shouldn't have, but it did. Anyway, when these get compressed all the way together, there's usually one side that's stickier than the other, and then when you pull it back out, one side has all the splines inside of it, and they'll go in so far, as you can see, but it got pushed all the way in, and now this side was the only side that was slipping. Well, it had reached a point where it was just enough, and it popped that out, and then this portion fell out of the truck onto the ground. This stayed attached to the front axle, this stayed attached to the transmission. So the fix that I got was I got an earplug, and I cut it up so that I was able to shove some of that in there to kind of make a bump stop, so that this could only go so far in, and then it meets that resistance to where it wants to spring back out, because it's a foam earplug. Well, I did leave enough space so that it can float a little bit in the middle, and then I have a picture here that I sort of did of it. Hopefully this will make sense, but this was a really good fix. I just drew the drive shaft here, and this represents the plug in the middle, as you can see. And what I did was I added earplug material kind of in this area here and this area here. I did want to leave a little bit of a gap between the bump stop earplug and the center spline portion of the drive shaft. And I left a space here because I do want this to move back and forth a little, but I want it to self-center. So it can no longer push all the way in and pull these nearly out on this side, and it will float in the middle now. So by doing that, it's going to have pretty much equal amount of splines in either end of the outer drive shaft. So that is what I did with that, and I feel like it worked great. I'll show it to you on the 10.3 here. I did this to both the front and rear drive shaft because I wanted that to stay centered. So each end of these outer drive shafts have a certain amount of foam material in there, and what it will do now is center it back to, it'll sort of self-center if I see how it springs back. Well, I did leave a little gap in there that it can float freely, so when it articulates now, it will always tend to self-center. So if I show it this way, as it articulates, it'll work its way back to the center. And I did this on the front and back, and I think that's going to work out really great. That's all I got for this video. Not going to make videos if I don't have anything to say, just to create content. But if you have a drive shaft that keeps separating, it might be good to try to, before you do anything else, just try to make sure that the center portion has something to keep it in place. You don't want to get it locked in there, because there is a tiny amount of expansion that happens as the suspension articulates. I'll try to zoom it in a little more just so you can see that. It won't be a whole, oops, I moved the camera wrong, sorry guys. I'll move the whole tripod here. There we go. It's not much, but this is full compression and extension. You can see it move just barely, but this is the rear one. It's got longer links and it's not as pronounced. The front one is more pronounced, and that's the one that actually came apart. That's all I got for you tonight. Hope it helps. If you have a drive shaft separating, it's worth a try. Talk to you later.